Thank you very much for joining us here today. My name is Clayton Sinyai. I'm the Executive Director of the Catholic Labor Network. Now, the Catholic Labor Network, for those of you who aren't familiar with us, we're a national association of Catholic trade unionists and Catholic clergy, religious, and lay social ministry activists who promote Catholic social teaching on labor and work. Thank you for coming here for our listening session with some of the workers from the Chateau Marmont here today. To begin, however, I will invite Father Ike to lead us in an opening prayer.
Thank you, Clayton, and welcome everyone. Wherever we're coming from to this particular moment, just gonna invite us to take a couple of deep breaths together to be present here. So if you breathe in deeply, breathe out. Breathe in deeply, and out. I'm gonna begin with a little song in my native tongue. Bianulo nuanyo, na bianulo nuanyo. Bianulo nuanyo, na bianulo nuanyo. That means, hear our cry, O Lord. Hear our cry. We are gathered as people of faith. We are gathered as people who know that where there is no justice, there is no peace. And where we know justice, we know peace. We are gathered to hear the cries of the Chateau Marmont workers, crying out for dignity, crying out for respect, crying out for recall to the work through which they are co-creators with God, the work that they love, the work that helps them provide for their families. Spirit of God, be with us. Help us listen attentively. Hear our cries and our deepest anxieties and answer from heaven as we join together in this labor of love, this labor for justice, this holy ground where transformation is birthed. And I pray in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father Ike. As I mentioned, my name is Clayton Sinyai. I'm the Executive Director of the Catholic Labor Network, and our organization, one of the things we do is we organize solidarity with workers who are fighting for just treatment in the workplace. And that's what brings us here today. It's an opportunity to hear from workers who are standing up to assert their dignity as children of God. We do this and activities like this, by the way, with the support of a grant from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development. In my work, I've been witness to numerous labor disputes, but few of them have touched me or disturbed me as much as what I have heard and read about the Chateau Marmont. A quick Google search reveals that this hotel has been legendary in Hollywood for being a so-called safe space for misbehaving celebrities, a place where show business VIPs can indulge in drug abuse and trysts, and if they so desire, can also act boorishly toward the long-suffering staff. Hotel management, if anything, behaved even worse toward the largely immigrant and Latino workforce at the hotel. And with the pandemic, even what little they had was taken away from these workers because they were abruptly fired and left without recourse. Like most of you here today, I am a Catholic Christian, and as a tenet of my faith, I am called to stand in solidarity with the marginalized, the maltreated, and the outcast. That's why we're here today, to listen to these workers tell their story and to stand in solidarity with them. For more on the situation at the hotel, let me introduce to you Hannah Peterson. Hannah is a member of the Catholic Labor Network Board, and she's also an organizer for the Hotel Workers Union, which has been supporting these workers, even though they are not themselves union members. Hannah, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. As Clayton said, my name is Hannah Peterson, and I am a member of the Catholic Labor Network, and I am also an organizer with Unite Here Local 11. As I see some familiar faces, but also new faces, I will briefly introduce who Unite Here Local 11 is. We are a labor union that represents the hospitality industry in Los Angeles, in Orange County, and in Phoenix. Our goal is to uplift and transform the lives of those who cook, who clean, and who serve all of us in Los Angeles, from representing workers at Loyola Marymount University to those workers at Dodger Stadium, and to all the workers in different hotels across Los Angeles. I began my journey with workers at the Chateau Marmont in about August of 2020, but I had heard a lot about what was going on at this hotel before. And when I began my journey accompanying the workers at the Chateau Marmont in their righteous fight to return to work after decades of serving there, I learned a lot. I learned a lot, not just about the institution, but I learned about the strength of workers at the Chateau. And what I learned specifically about the Chateau Marmont is that it is known as the playground for the rich and the famous. It is known as the safe haven for celebrities. But I kept asking myself the question, safe haven for who? Safe haven for who? And we learned really quickly that it is not the safe haven for the workers that made the place that it is, the castle that it is. And so we're going to hear very shortly from two workers who worked there for decades, Jesus Moreno and Marta Moran. But before I pass it along to them, to give you a really brief context for where the Chateau Marmont sits, the fight sits, and what we learned about the workers as they were beginning to organize is that they, the pandemic has been incredibly disastrous for our union, has been incredibly disastrous for the workers in hospitality in Los Angeles and across the United States and in the world. But the fight really began before that, when workers started gathering and sharing and organizing. We learned that for 6 years, workers hadn't received a raise when hotel rooms are upwards of $1,000 a night. We learned that workers were paying $700 a month for healthcare. I know a cook named Jesus who often used his vacation time to get surgeries and recover from such surgeries. I learned of workers working under pressure and really quickly, which resulted in frequent injury. Marta will share a little bit later about how she ended her time at the Chateau in 2020. And I also think of the cook Elias, a young guy like me, who went up and down the stairs as the kitchen is on 2 floors, and there was no caution tape at the stairs, and he tumbled down the stairs working very quickly and left the hotel disabled. I think of Sonia Molina, the housekeeper who worked there for 12 years, who received a lot of unwanted behavior from men as she worked there at night, but kept being told that the men just had to stay. I got to meet Keisha, a server from the Chateau Marmont, who wasn't receiving any tips, even though she was a server. She just got a flat rate and was grateful for that, while serving really famous people like Beyonce and Jay-Z. I got to know Thomasina Gross, who is now suing the hotel really courageously, who was sexually harassed as an event server, where if you walk around, you have one hand with napkins and you have the other hand with the platter, leaving your entire front of your body exposed to whoever and never being defended. And then, of course, April and Jesus suffering severe racial discrimination And I will let Jesus share a little bit more about his story. So we have Marta and Jesus here from the Chateau Marmont, and I'm excited for them to both come on. Now, Jesus is in Mexico and Marta is chiming in from Glendora. So let's see technologically really quickly how they're both going to get on. They say my name. So Marta y Jesus, cuando están listos, saca del mute, and I will do translation. Y si podemos verte, por favor, agarren el video. There are some issues with a video somewhere. María? I mean, Marta? Jesus?
Sí.
There we go. Okay, I hear Marta. So if we can change that name of the person talking, that'd be great. And then Jesus, puedes sacarte del mute. Estrella 6 o me empuja el micrófono. Jesus? I'm not. Oh, there he is. Maybe it might help to ask him to unmute. I know he's welcome to Organizing Under the Pandemic, which makes it really accessible, but also leaves its challenges along the way. Thank you all for joining. So why don't we start off with Marta. Ah, there we go. Beautiful. Hi, Marta.
Hola, ¿cómo están?
We're good. Marta, mira cuánta gente están aquí. Muchos, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Perfecto. Oh, we have Alex chiming in too from the job. We have Alex Roldan. That's great. So we have a few people here. This is awesome. I am going to let them share who they are, and I will translate. Marta, ¿quién eres usted?
Oh. Soy Marta Morán.
Uh-huh.
Trabajé en el Chateau Marmont por más de 33 años.
Uh-huh.
Y pues fui descansada por la pandemia hace ya casi 2 años y todavía no regreso a mi trabajo. Y soy madre soltera y pues es difícil el trabajo, sin trabajo y pues estamos aquí luchando por, pues, en mi casa descansé, estuve luchando por regresar a mi trabajo, todavía no me lo han regresado, espero regresar pronto. Y, pues, sí.
My name is Marta Moran, and I worked at the Chateau Marmont for 33 years. I'm also a single mother, and I was fired at the beginning of the pandemic almost 2 years ago, but I'm here fighting. I'm here fighting. Marta Moran, ¿qué hizo usted en el hotel?
Yo era housekeeper.
Uh-huh. ¿Y qué significaba eso para usted?
Pues pues me gustaba mi trabajo, pero era difícil, es pesado y pues hay mucha preferencia
Uh-huh.
con la gente, no respetan a la señoría.
Uh-huh.
Y pues es duro.
So I worked in the housekeeping department at the Chateau Marmont, and while I liked my work, it was always incredibly difficult and heavy and stressful. There was always also a lot of favoritism amongst the people who were younger And there was very, very little respect for seniority. I'm going to let Alex, gracias Marta, Alejandro Roldan está aquí. Alex, so will you, Alex, there you are, Alejandro, can you introduce yourself to everyone, please?
Hey guys, my name is Alejandro Roldan. I used to work for Chateau Marmont 3.5 years, and I was a houseman, helping the housekeeping, taking out the linen, whatever was in the room. Most of the rooms are super dirty, like always. Chateau Marmont always is being for parties, events, big events, any kind of famous thing you want to call it. And we're just here to fight, and we're just here to support us for the boycott and whatever is going on Chateau Marmont. Thank you guys for being in the meeting. Thank you for taking your time to support us, to support the co-workers from Chateau, and we're here to fight. We're not here to giving up anything. We're here to fight all the way in until my co-workers going to work. Thank you so much, guys.
And Alex is where do you work now, Alex?
Right now I'm working at Century City, Century Park, passing Beverly Hills. So right now I'm good. I'm getting good pay with union and everything. So I'm good right now. I'm supporting my coworkers. I'm trying to go back to Chateau Marmont with dignity and respect.
That's right. So you heard Alejandro firsthand working. You got let go from your job 2 years ago, and so now has found another job working as a janitor for a very fancy building in Century City near Beverly Hills, and with a union. So he's good there, but still wants to fight to go back to the Chateau Marmont. And Marta is off today from her other new job. I want to see if I want to ask more questions to both of them, but I want to make sure Jesus Moreno, ¿puedes sacarte del mute ahora? I got a message, Clayton, saying that the host would not let him unmute.
I don't have any control over, I can only ask him to unmute. Is he working from a telephone?
But from Zoom.
From a phone?
But on Zoom.
There's a special command, perhaps *9.
No, he's not calling in. He's on Zoom. Oh, maybe he is on cell. Estrella 6. Okay. Well, Jesus Moreno, I hope he gets to share too. He was a gardener at the Chateau Marmont for 19 years. Marta, so usted habló un poco de cómo era el trabajo y qué pesado era. ¿Nos puedes contar un poco de cómo eran los cuartos y qué tenías que limpiar y qué miraste? Y Alex, you can also chime in after.
Pues los cuartos eran como apartamentos, estaban grandecitos. Y pues sí, los dejaban muy sucios y pues la gente tomaba y usaba drogas. A ver, quedaban muy sucios. Encontraban marihuana una que otra vez. Y pues sí, casi siempre hacían sus pares. Y pues sí estaban sucios.
Y cuando usted vio un poco de polvo blanco, ¿qué hizo?
Yo tiraba toda la basura.
Toda la basura, excepto eso, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Yeah.
Si me reclaman, digo, pues no está permitido usar eso.
Yeah. So there were ¿y cuántos apartamentos tenías que limpiar cada día?
8.
So it wasn't just cleaning rooms all day. Each room is basically a huge apartment, and that's not even including the bungalows that are on the property as well. But the apartments, she was describing our full kitchens, full bathroom, 1 bed, 2 bed, and people leave them really dirty. It's the place people go to party, and you don't get any extra time if the rooms are left really dirty. And she was saying that she, I found a lot of drugs in the hotel rooms, including marijuana, because of all of the parties. Alex, do you want to add anything to that?
Ay, bueno. A veces sí. Para ya, 2 veces
Alex.
para la rodilla.
Did you want to add anything to what the rooms are like?
Oh, yeah, but the rooms are super dirty, like Hannah was saying, and everything you mentioned. Oh, sorry about that. Oh.
Very dirty. That's what I'm hearing right now. The rooms are very dirty, right, Alex? So Marta,
They give the housekeeping almost like 30 minutes to finish the room. The rooms, sometimes the rooms are like in a house, buildings, like an apartment. And sometimes the housekeeping, they're not able to finish their rooms because they're super dirty and everything like that. So yeah.
Y Marta, thank you, Alex, for that description. Y Marta, para usted, so usted estaba despedido el año pasado, 2 años pasado, en 2020. ¿Cómo ha sido estos años para usted?
Pues aquí ha sido difícil. Estuve descansando y luchando en la lucha, pues para que el hotel estoy luchando con todos mis compañeros para que la señora nos regrese al trabajo. Y pues les pido su ayuda, que nos sigan apoyando con los boicots y pues, en Instagram. Cada vez que puedan para que nos apoyen a seguir luchando, para que nos regresen a nuestro trabajo.
So when I was fired in 2020, I just kept trying. I kept fighting with my coworkers to return to work. And I just ask you all to just keep being with us in the boycott and following us on Instagram and in all the different ways that you can. Y Marta, ¿qué pasó con usted con su herida antes que estaba despedida? Cuéntanos de eso. ¿Cómo salió del hotel?
Pues es que me caí porque salí lastimada de tanto estrés que mi jefa, mi supervisora, me puchaba mucho con el trabajo y pues de tanto estrés pues me caí, me resbalé y me lastimé la espalda y estaba salí también, estaba fuera por unos días por incapacidad, bueno, me dieron restricciones pero no me quiso con restricción y a los 15 días me llamaron que estaba despedida. Estaba fuera por lo que estaba lastimada y me descansaron.
So one of the things that I want to highlight is I left the workplace hurt because of all the stress that we had and because of the pressure that I got from my supervisor. I was working really, really quickly and I actually fell. ¿Dónde caíste? ¿Era en el cuarto?
En un closet,
in the closet, the linen closet. Sí. So I fell and hurt myself in a linen closet and I left really hurt. And I actually hurt my back. I was out for a few days and then I went back to work with restrictions, but the hotel really did not want to accommodate those restrictions that I had. Jesus Moreno's having trouble with connecting, but he asked me to share a bit of his story. Jesus Moreno worked at the Chateau Marmont for 19 years. And he was a gardener, and he worked there for 19 years, meaning he knew so much about the hotel. And part of his story is that he wanted to be a supervisor and applied 4 times. This gentleman applied 4 times to become a supervisor, knew everything about gardening at this place. Every single time, the hotel just responded, "You don't have the leadership qualities." And guess who got the job over him? A different white man, usually a white man. So Jesus Moreno is another person who suffered racial discrimination at the Chateau Marmont. And he is a huge fighter ever since he was fired at the beginning of the pandemic, which he actually didn't even find out through the hotel, but found out through his 401k, because he noticed that the value in his bank and his account dropped a lot. Reached out to the 401k and they said, "Yeah, you're fired from the hotel. You don't have a workplace anymore." That's how he found out he was fired from his job, through his retirement fund. He took that all out, had to use it for his mortgage throughout the 2 years, and then had another job as a maintenance person at an apartment building. Is now in Mexico taking care of his really sick parents and a few of his family members who have now died from COVID. So their lives of the Chateau Marmont workers, as you can see, have gone in many different places. But as Jesus says all the time, I want to go back to the Chateau Marmont. I do not want to end my life working and feeling like a slave in a lot of ways. Those are his words that he says a lot and feels really dignified in that fight. Alex, do you want to share anything about the incident that you had at the glass, if you're able?
Yeah, I know I met with some people on the church before that we met on the Hollywood. So I know that a little bit of my story, but most of you guys you don't know anything. Yeah, I went. We're having the event for JC and Briancy, the Oscar week, and they told me to remove all the glasses, all the tables from the garage, and I did it. But one of the coffee tables, the little ones, is when I was taking to the storage, one of the coffee tables, glass tables, splashed on my eyes. So they told me that don't worry about it, that I wrote everything, but they did, but bills that were gonna come in, and I didn't have funds to pay my bills, and I passed through COVID by the time that I was having the bills coming into the house.
Thank you, Alex, y gracias, Marta. So quédense en el teléfono, el video, porque ya va a venir un momento para que la gente aquí puedan preguntar diferentes cosas a ustedes. Y a Jesús también, si estás. So thank you all for listening to Alex and to Marta and sharing their stories very courageously and stories that we so often just hear and just keep working through as our days become more and more normalized. But these folks have decided that enough is enough and that they want to do something about it. So folks were fired from the Chateau Marmont after decades of service. We have Carlos, the valet worker who worked there for 40 years. Marta, as she just said, 33 years. We have Walter, a bellman who worked there for 23 years. Jesus Moreno, the gardener, for 19 years. Alex for 3.5 years. Folks worked there for many, many years. And the hotel decided to use this opportunity as a chance to clean house, to get rid of the older folks, to get rid of the people of color, to get rid of the Latino workforce, to change the workforce entirely of the hotel and create a new brand. And the Chateau Marmont is an example of what so many hotels in Hollywood have been doing, and also the example of what we can do and what is possible in the hospitality. And so workers, like they were saying, they decided to fight, right? Decided that they were going to do something about this. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, Marta and Alex and Jesus and all of their coworkers fought for return to work laws. The first return to work law was passed in Los Angeles in spring of 2020, which means that the hotel cannot use the pandemic as a reason to fire its workforce. And workers have job security until 2024. They were not asking for money. They were just asking for a place to go back to the place that that they know so well, but also to the place that decided that they didn't want to see them anymore. So the fight continued. We passed really strong return to works laws in the county of Los Angeles and then in the state of California. And the Jesuits of California were really pivotal in pushing Governor Newsom. Thank you to Father Ike and others, to Governor Newsom, who was a Santa Clara grad, to sign the bill into law. He did not sign it in the first round. And Marta was one of the workers who caravanned all the way up to Sacramento and camped outside of Governor Newsom's office for 10 days saying, we just want to go back to work. We just want to go back to work. And when the pandemic subsides, he did not sign it then, but due to other political pressures, very soon after, Governor Newsom did sign it into law. So that protects 700,000 workers across the state of California. And the workers of the Chateau Marmont are the face of that law. There are many folks that are filing lawsuits against the hotel, from Thomasina on sexual harassment and racial discrimination to April Blackwell filing an incredible lawsuit against the hotel. These are two Black workers from the Chateau Marmont who face severe racial discrimination. April was a night auditor. So again, putting the people of color in the most dangerous parts of a workplace and at night. And she was faced with a guest who wanted to assault her physically. And she said, no, enough is enough. The hotel guest did not have it. The next day, the hotel decided to stand with the guest and let him continue his stay for the next 2 weeks. She came back. She was asked to go home. And then she came back after those 2 weeks, and the hotel decided to not stand with her and let her go, fired her. So April and Tommy are two folks that are suing the hotel, along with Marta and Jesus, for the hotel not respecting their seniority. And Jesus also for all the times that he was passed over for a white person in his job. One of their coworkers died, named Oscar Chacon, and as workers begin to come back to work, Oscar will not be going back there. He was a dishwasher, and the hotel decided not to stand with him, but the coworkers did, and had a beautiful drum circle outside the Chateau Marmont. The hotel in this time has also got a PPP loan, a paycheck protection loan for $2 million. And the workers are fighting to get the hotel to forgive that loan because they have not been called back to work. They've pulled movie productions from Aaron Sorkin to a Godfather type show. This has been incredible. And the most powerful tool, and Alex already said it, is the boycott. That is where the power lies. The owner does not like the boycott. It hits not just the money, but it hits his image. And those are two places that he is very, very vulnerable. And I feel really proud to stand by these workers. And this is a fight for our lives in hospitality in Los Angeles. There's a myth of a labor shortage, but really all these workers want is to go back to work, but with dignity and respect. So we're going to ask you all at the end of this call to sign the boycott pledge and share it with your friends who may have influence in Hollywood or may not, and follow an Instagram for boycott. And there are some updates. Workers are receiving start dates. So this is really, really big. And this is because of the law that you all helped put pressure to pass. And they received start dates, but due to a COVID outbreak, they're getting postponed. But because of all the confusion, workers are getting $500 as a bonus. And they are getting raises. They are getting free healthcare for their families. This has never happened before. And those are good, but it is not enough. The fight continues. The boycott continues until workers have a voice that is heard and respected. So I join you all in the fight in signing the boycott pledge and following the boycott Chateau Marmont Instagram, which I will put in the chat. And I'm going to pass it over to Father Ike to share some reflections.
Thank you, Hannah, and thank you, Martha, and thank you, Alex, for sharing your stories with us, and for letting us in and giving us a picture into what is happening and what has been unfolding at the Chateau Marmont Hotel. I just wanted to use this opportunity to share a little bit about how walking with and accompanying the Chateau Marmont workers has impacted me personally. And I'm going to use, I like to use acronyms a lot when I talk. So I'm just going to use ours to talk about this. So the first thing is just, I'll call it reverence. Reverence. And it all started with an invitation to a home visit. Hannah invited me to do a home visit for a parishioner who was one of these workers at the chateau. And there's something about the power of story and the power of encounter, right? It's one thing to hear about, Chateau Marmont displacing workers. That's something out there. But once you have an encounter, it's now here before you. It's incarnate, And I get the chance to hear, as one of my Jesuit brothers says, what is it like to be you? And I think for me, it keeps me from becoming, I would call it like a bad Pharisee as a priest, It keeps me from being far from the poor and far from the suffering that is happening to members of my community and others around me, helps me to actually know mercy and know the sacrifice of their lives, and also to know justice. So I'm calling it reverence because it puts me in touch with the story, this Imago Dei. The other thing I would say is a restlessness, because once you hear the stories, it just reveals how broken our system is, or how broken, the Chateau Marmont and the things that they allow, a certain kind of triumph of profits at the expense of people, and so, for the first worker, I heard about decades, almost 40 years of his work experience, and just being abruptly dropped. This is someone who had given, obviously, almost more than half of his life in service to this hotel, yet kind of just thrown away like a piece of trash, And also we've heard these testimonies today from Martha, from Alex, and also hearing the story of Jesus a little bit, I remember we had an event and I heard the powerful testimony of the two African-American women, April and Thomasine, right? And this idea that you have to sort of take a bunch of BS, part of my language, because you have wealthy patrons. I mean, it just, it upsets you, that's the restlessness I'm talking about, And recently Pope Francis mentioned there's this, when it comes to work, there's these three-pronged evil of injustice, exploitation, and the threat of unemployment, right? And you hear it in the stories, and it awakens this restlessness. And I think it's a call, at least from me, to be in solidarity and also to be prophetic, in terms of how we speak, So there's reverence, there's restlessness. And also I think for me, there's also been a sense of resilience that I see in the workers, I remember I saw Martha quite a few times at a lot of the events and the picket lines, and then discovered that she, sometimes she would come from an hour and a half or 2 hours away just to come and be present at these events, I mean, 2 years and they're all still showing up, still battling, even with this knee on their neck, trying to snuff the life out of them, Hannah mentioned going to Sacramento, to fight for this right to recall, keeping that hope alive and keeping that dream alive of just wanting to have this dignity of work. So resilience is, the other R. I see it. It's sort of, and it's inspiring to me, really, to see how much they continue to keep hope alive and fight and battle, right? And I think like a last R would be, I'll call it response, and also sort of a reclaiming, because in my accompaniment, there is just this beautiful call I see in the workers, because family is so important, and providing for their family, and even trying to form a family among themselves, these bonds that tie us together, and just wanting to connect and provide for the people they love. I see, the faith really that they have as they continue to struggle. I see, overcoming any fears of this big Andre Balaz, who's like a big owner of this big company, and all the celebrities that come to that place. There's sort of this kind of fire within the workers that's making them stand in their dignity and crying out to be respected, and then to be recalled, and I think it's a beautiful invitation to me. It's part of reclaiming their own dignity and power, but also our call to respond. So that's kind of, for me, how accompanying and being with these workers has impacted me. It's this sense of reverence, this sense of restlessness in me, and resilience, and also this need to kind of respond and reclaim our dignity. So as I, pass it on right now to continue our next part, I will be sharing just a few, we'll call it like a few photos or experiences that we have had together in the Chateau Marmont, just so you have a sense of all that Hannah has been doing, and organizing all the workers and all the picket lines, so, but thank you all for just inspiring me, and thank you for the holy ground and holy work that we're all trying to do together.
Thank you, Father Ike. Well, everybody, you've heard from these workers who have related their experiences, first employed at the Chateau Marmont Hotel, and then let go under rather suddenly with no recourse. We do have time for, these workers have asked us to support them in a boycott until they are recalled to the hotel and treated with dignity, the dignity that a worker deserves. We do have time for a few questions if anybody has questions that they would like to direct to any of our speakers here today. I appreciate you bearing with us through a lot of the technical challenges, because this has been a tougher row than it often is, but Zoom is always a bit of a struggle. Are there any questions for the panelists? Hannah, can you tell us a little bit more about, you started to explain that some of the workers have begun to be called back to service.
Sure, that's probably the biggest victory you have with a capital V. About 7 people from the kitchen, so cooks, dishwashers, and a few people from the restaurant have been called back to work. They were supposed to start on Monday morning, and like you all know, this is now almost 2 years outside of work at the Chateau Marmont, and this is what they're fighting for, to go back. Because of confusion and a COVID outbreak, the hotel postponed it until next week. So we will be having, we're pretty sure, an in-person action, a COVID-safe in-person action next Tuesday at 12 p.m. To cheer on the first folks as they go in with union buttons, with a lot of pride. This fight has been really, it's really particular, as we're fighting against a hotel where no one is working right now. And while people are really excited to go back next week, as Ike was talking about, there is also a lot of fear, and there's a lot of nerves and anxiety. This place abandoned them, and they're fighting to go back to make it better. So we will stand in courage with the folks that are going back. Cooks are getting a $7 raise in 2 years. That's from their fight. They're getting free family Kaiser healthcare. Never gotten that before. And a $500 bonus for messing up the start date. So as workers say, we don't trust this until it happens, and I agree with them. So we will remain cautiously optimistic in the days to come, but this is a very big victory towards the bigger victory of getting treated with respect and dignity.
One of our participants has dropped something in the chat, has asked, what are the specific wants that are still left unfulfilled? Are they looking for any changes in wages or benefits, or are there other things they're looking for?
Marta y Alejandro, ¿qué quieren ustedes? ¿Hay demandas, exactos, o no están ahí todavía?
I think this is Alex. This is Alejandro. I think the thing is that we just need for people to come back to work with dignity and respect.
Mm-hmm.
We're not asking for anything else, and we're just asking for the co-workers to be by the seniority that they have. They could come back to work with dignity and respect. That's the only thing we're asking. We're asking to support us like we support the Catholic also.
Mm-hmm. Y Marta, para usted, ¿qué demanda tienes?
Porque violó la ley, está llamando gente que no, tiene gente primero que no le corresponde estar allí en mi lugar, y está llamando a gente de la agencia en vez de llamarme a mí, que yo soy la que tiene más señoría en el trabajo.
Well, my demand is that they actually respect my seniority, and don't jump over me and bring someone else that has lower junior seniority than me. So I want them to respect that as I head back to work. And Elizabeth, that's an important question. The most like direct answer is there's no contract. The hotel gave these benefits to the workers, but can take them away as fast as they gave them. There's no negotiating contract where the workers are sitting down at the table with the owner. And when that happens, then the workers have a say in what they want, but that is not where we're at quite yet. The hotel is still just giving these things, but can take them away as fast as they can. So what workers are really asking for is a voice at the table, and eventually a contract to be able to sit down with the owner. So I think I responded correctly. So the fight's not over if you ask any worker. Yeah.
And Hannah, you mentioned that these workers were returning with union buttons, but they aren't union members. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure, they all want a union eventually, and so that's where the fight really will really end. And so they've all decided to go in on Tuesday with a union button to demonstrate power and unity, and show who they are to the hotel.
All right, Father Ike, in your images of the actions in front of the chateau, I saw an awful lot of people in clerical garb. Can you tell me a little bit about the role that faith leaders have played in this campaign so far?
Yeah, so, it's been sort of the important role of just accompanying and standing in solidarity with, the workers as they have continued their fight to just retain their jobs or be able to be recalled to their jobs. So I know at one of the first sort of picket lines at the chateau, there was, a rabbi from the Jewish tradition, many different clergy, because from different traditions as well, because there's another group, Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, that has also been part of this fight. And so I think the role is solidarity, the role is accompaniment, the role is being prophetic, because at these gatherings, we get a chance to kind of talk to the people, pray with them, and encourage them on this journey. And I just remember this picket line has been going on for almost 2 years now, but in December, there was an event in front of the hotel, and for the first time, the owner came out in the midst of this picket line, and all of the clergy that were there, we all kind of went around and got a chance to talk to him. Hannah was there, of course, and just to, confront him and, encourage him to do the right thing and ask for a meeting with him. Of course, when we talked about the union, he was very reticent and, didn't want to do that. But I think the clergy has been a voice of just solidarity, accompaniment, hearing the stories, being prophetic, and also even meeting the owner and challenging him to do the right thing.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from anybody in the group? You can speak up or drop them in the chat.
I'll ask a question to Alex and Marta. Marta,
Sí,
¿qué te ha dado esperanza e inspiración en estos 2 años? What has given you inspiration and hope in these 2 years?
¿qué?
¿Qué te ha dado inspiración y esperanza en estos 2 años?
A pelear por mi trabajo para atrás. Pues a ustedes, mis compañeros de trabajo, y la injusticia que cometieron contra nosotros, pues descansarnos, nos corrieron definitivamente, y sobre todo a los que teníamos muchos años, que dejamos la vida ahí, y pues que nos desechen como basura, así nomás, así, y sin ninguna indemnización, sin nada, sin aseguranza médica en plena pandemia. Pues, se me hizo mucha injusticia.
What has inspired me in these last 2 years is the fact that I really want to get my job back, my coworkers, you all, and really the injustice, the injustice that the hotel fired us. There were so many of us that had so much seniority and they threw us out like trash. And that's what moves me. I don't think that's right.
Well, thank you so much. I want to make a special thanks to Marta and Alejandro and all Jesus, all the workers who have moved on to other jobs, but have tried to, thought this was important enough to make an effort to come in with their testimony here today. And we will certainly be keeping them in our prayers, as well as acting in solidarity with them. And I want to thank Father Ike and Hannah Peterson for their presentations. And I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to listen to the testimony of these workers and hear about their fight. With that, I will let everybody go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
Take yourself off of mute. Se puede.
Sí,
Sí se puede. Se puede. Sí se
Sí,
puede.
sí
se
Sí
puede.
se puede.
Sí
Sí
se
se
puede.
puede.
Sí se puede.
Se puede.
Sign the boycott pledge. Follow it on Instagram.